Tēnā koutou katoa, ko tākoro, ko aho, ko puhara ki nui o mātou awa, ko ihi tai te moana, ko waitai te hapori, ki ngā paenga o tātou I mahi nei, o mātou ingoa, ko au te manakura o tēnei koare. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Hi everyone, my name is Paul Mail, I'm the Chairperson of the Waitai Community Board, and welcome to you. We've got members of the public and staff, and including members of the public and staff online here and around the world. If you'd like to join me in our karakia territory. Be up on the screen.
Bear with me.
So, do we have any apologies? Just note that member Alex Hewson is online here, so he is present at the meeting. He's just quite unwell, and so there he is. He's even wearing a suit on Zoom, but he is here with us. Do we have any apologies? All right. Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. So now move to confirmation of previous minutes. Jack, you'd like to move those? Seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, so now we move into our public forum. Public forum is where members of the public have up to 5 minutes to talk to us about whatever it is they want to talk to us about. So that's 5 minutes, including questions. So if you would like us to ask you some questions, please give us some time. We do have a very full agenda today, so I'm going to have to run it pretty tight. So also, members, if we could remain quite focused on what's before us, that would help us get through our decisions. So firstly, we have the Green Lab, so Bridget, if you'd like to join us at the end of the table.
I've got a track box.
Oh, awesome. And you have with you
Jane Horn.
Jane.
Right. Oh yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
professional.
Like to push one of your microphones on the right hand side. You'll see there's a super button on the right hand side. That'll turn your microphone on. All right, 5 minutes is yours.
And so just so you know when I want the slide changed. There's a click.
It's a clicker, yeah.
On there.
I see it.
Kia ora, my name is Bridget Allen and I'm the current director of the Green Lab, and this is Jane Horn, who is the carpenter and also the one responsible for building this amazing container that we have, which was built in 2018. The Green Lab was formerly Greening the Rubble and a grassroots organisation that's now become a charitable trust set up after the earthquakes for social wellbeing through greening. We're looking at the current areas that were affected by the earthquakes are still now getting affected through climate change, such as weather events and sea level rise. What we aim to do is by increasing awareness and practical ways to work with nature and water, we build stronger communities that are more resilient. In our trustee, one of our objectives is to respond to community needs generated by natural disasters. What we're looking to do is, my sheet, sorry, the vision of to introduce and educate. I just can't quite see. All right. Educate the community about ecology and biodiversity of the local environment, our impact and its importance and its future. We just currently looked at the greater area of the road and where the residents are, where the commercial areas are, the large parks and the flood management, and bringing these all together. So we are looking at using the space right in the middle of those. How will we do this? we want to move our lab, the portable workshop, to the gateway of New Brighton and introduce at a street level the Green Lab to the community. This would supply workshops and accessibility for everyone to be able to learn, enjoy workshops with the local community to increase local biodiversity, working in partnership with local organisations, provide educational workshops, research and development in the area, and signage regarding the surrounding environment and how we can make a beneficial impact, as well as beneficial insects. So we've broken it down to how this would work and the structure that we would run workshops. These are some of the workshops that we would look at making that would have a coastal focus to them. So our backyard resilience would be gardening with sand, or how to have flood management. It could be simple things like educating people about clearing out drains. Landscaping the area that we were talking about, using native plants, accessible pathway, building seating and perhaps a bird watching platform. We'd also like to work in more with research and development. We do a lot of work at the moment with Canterbury University, and it's a great way for them to outreach to the community, showing the research that they're doing. The last one is working in partnership is really strong for the Green Lab. We currently work with quite a few people, and also corrections, Canterbury University, Lincoln University, Skillwise, the park rangers, and we would connect more with the local groups in New Brighton as well. So we were looking at moving our portable workshop. We've got 2 locations that we were currently looking at, and they both have pros and cons, and so that we would be up to talking to the community about that as well. And in these plots, we would have the research plots, providing seating as a way for people to come and connect and learn about the site, and would also be really strong having demonstration gardens about coastal flooding and the plants and how to go about some of those really practical ways of dealing with water as well as plants and soil. And this is a wee photo montage we've done of the lab set up in Site A. Here we have Samuel L. Jackson. He came to the track building workshop. And this is one of our tracks that we have built at our current workshops, and these are actually of ply from the cathedral rebuild that we have repurposed. And this is sort of a breakdown. Probably the budget is a wee bit light, because that can always change in terms of funding and what you're looking for as well, but also just looking at hopefully setting up in September, doing the planting while it's still in the planting season, and then looking at setting up the workshops into summer.
We're coming to we'll just come to the end of your 5 minutes. I'll give you a tiny little bit more time just to finish your slides. But you have
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, in that case, you've answered where, and you've answered how much, which would have been my question. So thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate you coming to the board, and you can well, if you go back and sit down, our staff will tap you on the shoulder, and you can continue that conversation. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming to the board.
Staff is already.
Yeah, so I think we just usually thank people for the public forum. We usually just thank people for their presentation, and ask staff to continue that conversation when it comes to things like this. Right, but yeah, thank you. That's awesome. All right, next we have Greater New Brighton Community Emergency Planning, Lila Jansen. Hi, Lila.
Kia ora.
And just as before, it's 5 minutes, including questions.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to be sure.
If you wanted to push the microphone,
yeah,
just down on the right hand side, the button on the right.
This one? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll just wait for
All right,
presentation.
Don't worry, your time won't start until the presentation is found.
Okay. Kia ora. My name is Lila Jansen. I'm manager at the New Brighton. And today I will be talking about community emergency response, which is not a new topic. I know that there is a lot of history and discussion in the area and the different community groups. However, in end of 2022, Renew Brighton was asked to take over the coordination in a wider New Brighton area. And we did research and we did lots of discussions with the various community groups to create a plan, community response plan for emergency situation. So this is a presentation which probably some of you have seen already. So I'll go through very quickly for a reason that you know quite a lot of background, but I really would like to establish where we need to go and so on, look more on the future, how to progress. So community emergency response plan at first is needed to prevent loss of life and provide confidence to people what to do in emergency situation. And also there is quite a lot of questions, what council is doing and why do we as a community need to have a plan? So that was very clearly explained in the latest two meetings they had with the community, that council has a staff and there is also emergency civil defense centers, but community creates a hub model, and hub model allows community to be in charge of emergency situations and help each other. So community response plan covers earthquakes, flood, fire, all possible imaginable situations, except tsunami. Tsunami evacuation, it means people have to go. While community plan works on the hub models and the resources what people need in emergency situation. So stakeholders for the plan implementation is Residents Association, Renew Brighton, the three hubs, which I'll mention further, Christchurch City Council Civil Defence Team, and we also would like Community Board to take a role in this plan implementation. As a governance body, it would be very helpful also to have your input in how to go forward with the plan and make sure that this plan is updated and kept alive every year. So, yeah. So the number one, what we would like is to inform every household in Greater New Brighton how to be prepared. What is their household emergency plan? Also work with the people that the best option is to know their neighbors and always know what's happening around them. And also know which is the closest hub and closest evacuation route. There was discussions when would such a plan, emergency plan, would be activated, and actually it can be activated by any of the stakeholders. It doesn't mean that it has to be a national emergency or regional emergency. If we would have heat wave in New Brighton and 50 people would suffer, we can open any of the hubs and create a safe space for people to have cool and supported environment. We have a website for emergencynewbrighton.org. This site needs regular updates, and currently we encourage people to register, as that would be cheapest way, a more cost-effective way to keep regular communication with people. All information campaigns are, as we know, are very, very costly, and we still do not reach every household and every person. We still meet people who haven't heard about us after we have been running social media ads, printed ads, and lots of consultations for 3 months. So that shows that individual approach is needed. So we also created a video, which we will launch next week, and we'll start campaign trying to reach every household, which is visual aid, how to be prepared for an emergency. So 3 community hubs is Grace Vineyard, Union Church, and the Bridge Hub. more hubs can be open because it's a mobile. Hub is actually a resource box which can be taken to any safe place, and group of people can open hub, and all the needed information and resources are in that box. So it's working on a mobile principle. So I will not go in details on examples. So household plan can be downloaded from the website, and we also have printed copies, which we would like to distribute in hand and meeting people face to face.
This is really important. I don't know if you're aware, but me and Jackie, as chair and deputy, make reports to the council every month, and for the last, I think, 3 meetings, we've mentioned that how important this issue is, how important it needs to be funded and community supported to develop these, and it needs being integrated. We've run out of time. Yeah. But I would like to start to talk to you, and because short version that there's been lots and lots of consultation and lots of plans throughout the east side, and there's lots of resources that are out there, and where as a community would want to see those resources used efficiently so that everybody gets connected with this.
Yes.
So if we can work with you and other groups, that would be great.
Yes, thank you. That was the purpose, and I'm very glad that we are on the same page. Yes.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next we have Paul, Cottam and Tim from East Shirley Cricket. Two familiar faces.
Yeah.
5 minutes is yours.
Yep. Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Paul. I'm here in my capacity as Junior Convener of the East Shirley Cricket Club, not in my former role as a policy advisor at the City Council. I finished about a year ago. Yes, so just here to bring to your attention just one or two maintenance operational issues at the cricket club down there, and look to get your support, say through mechanisms such as the long-term plan process and other funding and grants, schemes and opportunities as they come around. So Tim Gricott here, the club president, he may wish to say a word to the end as well. So the two things we want to highlight are, hang on, you can't quite see the title yet, right across the screen, Cindy, not sure what we can do about that. Thank you. So our artificial nets there, so that's in the lower field that you may be familiar with. Firstly, this is a tremendous asset now, not only for our cricket club, but for others in the community, outside of cricket club, even some other cricket clubs and other juniors play here, since the council remediated and fixed up the run-up area there. It's probably one of the best in town. So we'd like to thank the council. The run-ups inside the net, I beg your pardon, the surface inside the net was attended to a few years ago, although it's probably getting to the stage where it's almost a victim of its own success in some ways, just in terms of the wear and tear on it. So I've just tried to take a couple of pictures there, so you can see my hand there sort of pointing to one or two of the divots and worn areas. In the bottom left-hand corner there, you can see the contrast on the top of the picture where the run-up area ends, and just in the bottom area there, the surface inside the net. So these are well used by our children and our hardball teams. Our catchment, by the way, is mostly in the Burwood area. We also have some kids from the coastal area and a little bit in the Linwood Avenue area now, as we're seeking to provide for kids who live in here. So we've just to be a bit front foot, we've obtained a quote for what the cost would be to replace the inside net. What we do at the start of each season is we hose and sweep it down and so on, and understand that our parks people will be quite happy to give it a decent water blast for their equipment facilities at the start of each season. So I think we just need to get this on the LTP agenda at some point, because as the divots rip and tear, then it starts to become a bit of a safety issue for kids in the net there. So yeah, I think we would be prepared to seek other fundraising sources. We do a little bit of fundraising ourselves through Make a Baker Pliers and so on. So we certainly wouldn't necessarily be coming to entirely cabinet. The second one, come here. Next slide.
Right.
There we go. Second and final slide here is a John Grocott Oval, which occupies the site of an old bowling club. Yes, that's Tim's late father. This pitch is a tremendous asset again for the community, one of the few clubs who has a junior artificial pitch at club grounds. It is well used, it is well patronised. The club did a lot of funding, a lot of work for this to certainly lay the base through it, through one of the coaches who ran a construction business at the time. We did some fundraising, we got some help from Christchurch Junior Cricket, and also did some fundraising a couple of times to lay some soil around the edge of the block, and just last year, just a little bit further away from the block, just to fill in a couple of hollows. We had the point here around the irrigation, as you can imagine, it's a little bit higher in the old club, the old bowling club area there. So we have sourced some K lines from one of the golf clubs around town, and we do a bit of manual watering around there, and that's got us out of jail the last 2 seasons, right? So we do it around about the start of February, just to set ourselves up for the rest of the season. So far, so good, but we're seeking a much longer-term solution to the problem, particularly to mediate against a bad drought, which under climate change we're probably going to cop at some stage sooner or later. So yeah, we're just seeking, again, probably just get it on your agenda through the long-term plan process to extend the irrigation out into that area. There's a main line and a valve that ends sort of adjacent to the block there. I'll leave it open for questions for the last minute or two, unless Tim wants to add anything
We've
further.
got about 30 seconds.
I think it's a very well-used resource, particularly on this side of town. It's providing, really good cricket for, our club, but also the community. Particularly the nets are used heavily, and I just think that the ability for the council to support that and look at particularly, I think the safety aspect is something that needs to be really considered. We don't want to have to, I think, close them off because they become dangerous because the surface is so worn. That would be a shame, because they do get a lot of use. And I think for us, the ability just to continue to provide that use for the community, and for it to be safe and enjoyable and fun and get people participating and being active, I think is really important.
Yeah. All right. Well, what we can do, the community board members, is that we can include support for this in our long-term plan submission, which we're going to start drafting next week. And what your councillors can do, looking at them, is that they could support that when it comes to the LTP amendments. So I've Sunny Place Cricket, and we have looked around for nets, and these are the best nets on the east side. So yeah, Christmas very happy to support. All right. Yeah, interest in common with the public, in fact. Anyway, well, thank you very much for your time. We have a very full agenda, so I won't take any more questions. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Thank you.
So next we move to item number 7, because there's no deputation, it's a presentation of petitions. Which is correspondence. And so this is correspondence from the Spencerville Residents Association, who would like us to come and have a look at some of the issues they have there in history, and would like us to attend a site visit. So would someone like to move that we receive the correspondence from the Spencerville Association and request staff to organise a visit? Now, thank you very much. It will be difficult to get us all there, but if we can find a time where at least some of us, I guess, and preferably the coastal members, can get there, because they want to show us what happens in the estuary, and it's very hard to put it all on paper and get us to understand the extent of the problem. So someone like to move what staff. Moved by Jackie, second. I think Joe, you might have your hand up first. In that case, the motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, we have Adam. Is it 12s or 2s?
2s, I think.
2s, yeah. Any relation to Roger?
No.
Did one of the great all-time catches. And so I understand that you have to be away.
Yes, apologies. I've got 3 children outside that have to get to a dancing lesson at 5:20.
Okay,
Sorry, 5:30, so I need to leave at 5:20.
all right. So we will try to be as quick as we can. Just a reminder that this is now a regular standing part of our agenda, which means that this isn't going to be the only time in the quarter or in the year that we get this briefing. This is going to be a regular thing. So if you don't have the information for us, you can go and get the information for us.
Correct.
Yeah, so just bearing that in mind and keeping the questions focused when we come to them. So I'll hand over to you now, and if you want to give us your presentation and take questions afterwards, would that you prefer that?
Probably because I might answer some of the questions as I go through.
All right, thank you.
Let's see if this works. Cool. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate coming out, and just to touch on what Paul says, happy to come out on a regular basis to provide updates as required. It is a dynamic changing situation. What I will make clear, however, is I operate the treatment plant with my team. I am not part of the bigger picture for looking at the insurance, the other options going forward. So I am not privy to any more information than the vast majority of people around the table here. And I've got one slide on that on the end. Which is basically what I just said. So just to review what's happening. So after the treatment plant fire, we put a temporary solution in. The odours disappeared for quite a while, and then the odours seem to have returned with a vengeance over the past few months. Let me know if my voice is going strange. What we have done is I'm going to run through a whole range of stuff going forward. So I appreciate that communication out during those early days, the odour was not quite forthcoming as much as it could have been, but there was an awful lot on, which I'm going to go through and show you to explain why. And we have been doing a lot behind the scenes. That is the image that you see. If you click on our website, it's a cartoony style, but it's pretty well laid out the same way that the site is. Just to run through it, so you've got your houses, all the pump stations in the network, and then the sewage goes through inlet screens, grit removal, sedimentation tanks, aeration basins, clarify, oxidation ponds, and then out to the Pegasus Bay. The sludge that comes off from the sedimentation tanks and the aeration tanks goes to digesters where it's treated, biosolids drying, and then goes up to land remediation. So that's it in a nutshell. There's quite a lot that goes on. So over the past several weeks, so months now, our consultant's been undertaking an investigator investigation across the site to try and get to the bottom of where the odours are coming from. We've pragmatically worked all the way from the very front of the treatment plant all the way through to the very end across those 8 steps. So again, trade waste. So this is big organisations in the network which discharge legally to our network. Meat factories, hairdressers, car washes, all that sort of stuff. And then it goes to the other treatment processes once it's in: screen room, sedimentation tanks, temporary system, odour control station, ponds dryer, and the sludge dryer. Sorry, can everyone, is it a possibility we can? Awesome, thank you. So trade waste, so we've been continuously working with our trade waste team to see if there's anyone out there in the network that's dropping more load onto the treatment plant that could be possibly causing a source of odour. We've gone out there and found no indications that anyone's doing anything untoward, which could be a source of the odour at the treatment plant. The screen room, when we looked into that in detail, we discovered that the ventilation system was not quite up to the spec of what we needed to do. So we put a temporary system in there that's been done. However, it is a temporary system and we need a new permanent ventilation system to be put in there. So I put a request into the capital delivery team to design, build and install a bigger system for us. The primary sedimentation tanks, so number 3, this is where we believe the vast majority of the odour that has occurred from this summer period. What these tanks do is sewage goes into them, we hold it for a while, the sludge settles out towards the bottom, and that's taken off the sludge digesters. But what we found this year was a lot of the sludge was also coming to the surface and making it very difficult to get off. So what we did, we reduced the number of tanks that are in service, so we reduced the amount of time that the sludge is held in there to get it through as quickly as possible. We had some of the guys standing there removing the scum down through manual hosing, literally stood there with a hose trying to wash it off so that it doesn't smell. We did look at whether a contractor could come in with big specialised machinery, a great big tank to come and suck it off, but none of those were going to be applicable. We've engaged contractors for some possible odour controlment systems, but these are big tanks. They are 3,000 cubic metres each. We've got 7 of them, so they're pretty big pieces of equipment. And what we have been able to do is from the sedimentation tanks where it goes into the next stage, it's actually pumped so you get a bit of disturbance, so you introduce some more air into it. So we put some new colours over the top to try and contain that odour that's in there. And again, we've just identified that where the guys were stood there with the hoses washing it down, we can automate that process, but I haven't got enough water on site to be able to do that. So again, put a project together, pass it to the asset managers and ask for some money for them to come and put a bigger water system in for me so we can push that surface scum off the top of the tanks as quickly as possible. Temporary secondary treatments, we re-engaged the consultant that helped us put the system in. It was put in, as you're aware, we put it in and for a number of months there was no odours, so we can demonstrate that it can work right. We're getting them back in to see if we can make any more tweaks or optimisation to that. It's pretty hard to make changes to the way we've got the system because we've made it as big as we could with all the assets that we could within the time frame that we could. But we have to look at everything. Quite happy to go back and look at that. The odour control system, when we had the trickling filters, the odour control system was designed for the trickling filters. What the odour control unit's doing now is trying to look after the rest of the site with those trickling filters gone. So the design of the system is no longer fully fit for purpose for what it was designed to do. So what we've done is we've increased the odour control system suction. So we've bypassed some of the pipe work and put more fans in so we can suck more odour out as quickly as possible. We've undertaken more proactive maintenance to try and keep this system that's not working as well as it should do, to try and keep it going as much as possible. And we've engaged a contractor to renew one of the bio bed media. So it should be sort of done in the next couple of weeks or so. What we do is we suck air off the top, run it through some pipe work, put it through like an irrigation system, like a bio bed. So it's a whole load of media that's on top of it. Air comes up, works all the way through. We keep it wet. As it works its way through, there's bacteria on there that eat some of the odours as all that air comes all the way through it. Over time, it's bark that goes in there. It's wet, it's humid. There's loads of bacteria. Over time, it breaks down from nice big bark with the bacteria on it to basically soil, and then it starts surcharging through the outside. So we're taking all that soil away and putting all new fresh bark into it. The oxidation ponds, I've struggled with these flipping things. Staff are working closely as possible with the contractor to ensure the pond aerator reliability improves and that all aerators are available to be operated at maximum design capacity. We've put two sets of aerators in. We've put aerators in the temporary aeration basins, as you can see there. We've put 8 aerators in there. They have operated faultlessly for 2 years. Not a single one's had a single blip or anything like that. We've also put 16 aerators on the oxidation ponds, oxidation pond 1. We've had 1 month where we've managed to get all 16 aerators operating at any one time. We've had 2 break in the past couple of weeks. One of them's back in service and the other one's going to be up, I think it's the 12th. The other thing that the oxidation ponds do, they are very complex in terms of biology, chemistry, and physical flows, the way that we send it through to it. We've learned a lot over the past 2 or 3 years. What we've discovered is, well, we knew in summer, lots and lots of algae keeps the dissolved oxygen nice and high, does an awful lot of the treatment for us. In winter, it's cold, it's wet, a lot of the bacteria slow down what it's doing. It's not been an issue in previous years because we've never sent as much load to it because the trickling filters are always working. What we discovered last year is summer, lots of algae, everything's happy, and then it gets to winter, all the algae dies off because the sun's gone, it gets cold, but there's enough bacteria in the pond for about another week or so. There's like, yay, lots of algae to eat, eats all that, causes the pond dissolved oxygen levels to crash. And that's what generated that week's long of odour back in April and May last year. We know it's coming, so we've got an operating plan in place to try and minimise that as much as possible, which is to reduce the amount of time it's in the ponds and to try and get it through to make maximum use of those aerators at a time. So we're doing everything we can in that space, and we're making all the changes this week so that we are, sorry, what are we, the 8th of April, so that by the time we get to the 3rd week in April, we're in the best place possible to go forward to try and mitigate that. The digesters, what we've discovered, so digesters, you take all the poos, stick them in a great thing, heat it up to 57 degrees Celsius, then 37 degrees Celsius, an awful lot of biology breaks it all down. So it breaks all those solids and breaks it into biogas, water. The biogas that comes off the top comes off when we run it through power generation engines or boilers to heat all the sludge up for us. There's 1,000 cubic meters of sludge a day goes through it, and get an awful lot of biogas coming off. What we've discovered is at the top, you get biogas pipework is slightly undersized, so we get leakage out the top. That's been discovered a number of years ago, put a process in place. The tender should be going out imminently for contractors to come in and do a $20-something million system to upsize all that biogas pipework. Estimated completion for that is FY25. We're undertaking a proactive maintenance schedule on those valves that are leaking to try and minimise the amount of gas that's coming off them as much as possible. Sludge dryer as well. The sludge dryer went in 12 years ago. Over that time, it's very harsh. We're putting 40 tons of sludge on it, 120 degrees Celsius, hot water running through it. We have to keep mixing it. It's a very abrasive substance. They've worked pretty hard, pretty well for 12 years, and they're just starting to show that time and starting to have more reactive maintenance have to be done on it. And what that means is they can't always work, so sometimes we have to stockpile sludge outside occasionally just to do it. It's not ideal, and it contributes to the overall background odour. So again, have a chat with the asset managers and put some money in place to try and give those a big overhaul to get those working as quickly, more reliable as possible to get that sludge through. Ongoing activities on site, still having the consultant coming onto site, walking around the site. We've got fixed meters on site to work out all the changes that we're making. Is it having an improvement and affecting that area? Yes, no, we can jump onto it, do something about it. The odour management plan, odour management activity plan we've got in place is a living document. It's going to be changing all the time. And yeah, so as we load stuff, if we box it off, it's going to finish, brilliant tick. What else can we be doing in other areas of the site to try and reduce the odour coming from the site? Turn to communication milestones. So apart from doing an awful lot on site, we're doing a lot of communication around the outside as well. You're aware that we had to provide a response to Environmental Canterbury's compliance report. That's been done, that's been sent back to them. I'm not aware of having a response back from them on that one. Transition to the winter mode for the plant. Yep, we're on that, looking at that to get underway as quickly as possible this week. The weekly air monitoring is ongoing, so that's the, I'll touch on it a little bit more, that's all the odour monitors that are in the community, so that's going up on those websites. I've touched on the operational change and maintenance work that's ongoing, just keeping that information going out to all the people outside. The one that I sort of touched on at the start, there is a report going to the wastewater. There's a report on the wastewater treatment plant going to council on the 15th of May, and that will be that insurance update and stuff like that. I understand that meeting is going to be publicly excluded to protect commercial insurance sensitivity. However, I've been informed that we will, of course, release what we can when we can. I have no more information on that. I can't comment any further, I'm afraid. We've updated our webpage. So before it just had the oxidation ponds on it, showing health. That's obviously now dropped off a little bit more because the focus is now on the treatment plant. Numbers, as you can see them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exactly the same as I've done in the presentation. Click on that link, or just search Google for Christchurch City Council wastewater fire, comes up, and then you can click on it, and it basically provides updates on everything that we've done, and we keep that updated now. So there's far more information there available. I will update that as weekly. Interagency communications, we have fortnightly meetings with ECAN officers to discuss air quality monitors, what we're doing on the treatment plant. They let us know where they're getting odour complaints from, so we can tweak that to what we're doing on site, and we're keeping good communication with them. ECAN also provide us with that complaint data and early notifications of a cluster of odours complaints from in certain areas, and we keep a medical officer of health updated by email. Those are where we've got the residential odour monitoring sites. Again, this is pushing my knowledge. I've got a colleague who normally looks after this, unfortunately can't be with us today. He's the person who collects all the data, works with the consultant. He's the one that updates the web pages. So you can see we've got stations at South New Brighton School, Shortland Street, Mecca Place and Woods Road. And these are the charts that you'll see updated on the web page. We are detecting hydrogen sulfide levels at Shortland Street and Mecca Place, depending on the wind direction is. But we haven't had any recent detections of odour from South New Brighton. Previously, that was far more influenced by the ponds, which are performing okay at present. And that on the side is the latest data available from those 4 monitors for the past week or so until the 31st of March. Oh, sorry. Apologies for the rapid run through. I thought I'd get through as much as possible on that. So any thoughts, any ideas of what you would like to see in the next presentation? More than happy for those to be put in, and then I can come back to you.
Firstly, I just want to add, thank you for you and your team for all the doing the hard work trying to keep that plant running on number 8 wire and duct tape.
I'll pass it on to them. Thank you.
I appreciate that you have to deal with the aftermath as well, and the plant is not up to doing the job that it needs to do. So thank you, and also just for the breadth of the presentation that you've given us. I'll see what other members say about ideas that they might have, but my question is really just around ensuring that people who live in the area are forewarned about the likely coming, that April-May stench, and that you're doing all the work that you can to prepare for that. But I think because not everybody is going to be been paying attention to making sure that people get something that lets them know that they should expect, at least for a short period, that it's going to be worse than it has been. So, members, if you have any questions or comments?
Say a comment because
Yep.
the other night in your writing here, it was absolutely stinking as well.
Okay.
So I don't think you've got any monitoring happening here, have you?
We've got one at South New Brighton School.
Yeah, but not central New Brighton.
We placed the meters based on the feedback from where the odours came from last time, and where the consultants believe the most prevalent wind directions are for those areas.
One might be just the wind. A couple of days, but I just thought I'd make you aware.
Okay, thank you. Honestly, the Smelter app is probably the best way to do it and capture it, because that data logs it, data times it, and ECAN can take that information, build it into their database, and they can give it to us. We've got full access to all the weather conditions, so we can determine where it was and what parts. Like with the intensive stuff we've done on site, we can also identify which part of the site is coming from. So, for example, with Shortland Street, we can say whether it's coming from the digestion area or the temporary system. So, the more data we get, the more we can do, the more we can look at it to jump on it.
You said that you've asked for some, I forget the actual, what it was you were asking for more funding. So have you asked for that just recently?
So it's what we've been discovering over the past 2.5 months with a real intensive study around the site. The focus previously was on the oxidation ponds. They were the area that was struggling with us. That seems to be resolved for the vast majority of it. I'm not saying it's cured whatsoever. But now the focus is mainly on the treatment plant. It is a sewage treatment plant. We have open tanks with sewage. We've got biological processes. It's not as fit as what it was pre-fire. We're learning a lot of where it is and jumping onto it to try and make those resolutions as quickly as possible.
And that extra funding, is that in the LTP process? Is that being?
I don't know. I'm operations. I do it. What I do is I have a good relationship with the SM manager. As soon as we know anything, I'll be able to identify it, document it, send it through.
Okay.
And then they're aware of the significance of how quickly they need to respond to it.
But we'll just make a note then to make sure that that you have what you need in the LTP. Yanni.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I do want to apologise for getting a little bit upset at the letter that went out to the residents. I do want to acknowledge that actually for a number of us, we've repeatedly asked for things to go through people's letterboxes. So I wanted to just thank you for putting something through. Thank you to the staff for putting something through people's letterboxes so that they know that we were getting the update today. But I think, my frustration stems from the fact that we have council resolutions to get a report back in April. And we've also requested re-engagement with health and welfare sectors to see what socials report.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not sure.
So I just wanted to check if the report that's coming in May is also looking at the adaptive recovery plan.
I can only refer you to what I don't know what going into that report.
So this is operation of the plant. I think that. So if you can keep your questions to that.
So do we know what's happening with the insurance in terms of?
I don't know. I know nothing more than what yourselves do.
Just that the report's coming in May.
Yeah, so I spoke to Adrian Seagull, the insurance person, this morning to say, what do I put in that line? And he said exactly what I wrote up on the screen, which is the report coming on 15th of May.
Okay, so in terms of the technical information, it's really good to have the graph and the dynamic one. I don't know, it's a bit hard to see it, but you know, this one with the little folks. I just wondered though, is there a level, if I click on, say, like the primary settlement tank, is there a measurement of like a chemical that we can see, or like how do we?
So we use hydrogen sulfide because that's sort of like an indicator,
right?
Gas that comes off.
So is there a way that we can see what the measurements are on each of the things or some of the things and see how those measurements are tracking to know whether we're making an improvement or not? A bit like we've done with the ponds, which I thought was really helpful.
I'm reluctant to, based on the amount of information that we're going to be putting out and having to manage that and put it out all the time. We know where the odour's coming from, and we've got a whole raft of solutions to try and put in place on that.
So the biggest problem is the primary settlement tanks.
The report from the consultant goes out, does monitoring. Up until a couple of weeks ago, the majority of it was coming from the primary tanks. Now that the weather's changed, it's got a bit cooler, they are not generating as much odour as what they were.
Right.
But there's still odour coming from other parts of the site. As you can see, we put an awful lot of effort to try and managing the primary tanks and to get the odours down on them, which has sort of worked. But the weather has worked just as much as that has, because it's cooler, the biological processes are less, you get less gas off, you get less accumulation on the surface.
Just the residents have been back to me that it's been as bad as it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting. So, like, yeah, so if the primary tanks are getting better, then I'm just sort of struggling to understand what's causing the problem.
There's a lot of parts of the site which are generating lots of different parts of the odour. We've lost, if you've got a car, it's like you've blown the engine up. This is the biggest part of it. You've thrown the engine away and you put a tiny little thing in to try and keep it going, but it's never going to perform right. You're never going to get the performance out of it the way that it is until you put the permanent solution in. You've got a massively compromised system which is putting pressure and strain on the rest of the entire treatment process. We've moved from having fixed growth biological treatment to a fluid-based biological treatment process. The rest of the site is not capable of dealing with it. So we've done as much as we can with what we had, but you're trying to replace two structures which are 55 metres diameter and 8 metres deep. And we've done what we can with existing assets that we've got available to put it as quickly as possible. Just over the summer, it's just demonstrated how weak and fragile that system is for it to cause some of the performing.
Well, you're running out of time.
Sorry, I'm afraid, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and this is you've made, but whatever reason the council chose not to deal with this, with the fire as an emergency and respond accordingly to repair it, and just to go forward and properly repair and replace it. I don't know why that is, but we are here now because you're having to run it without all the equipment that you need. The council needs to fund the replacement. And you have to continue to adapt, and we have to continue to advocate for our community. It's the council that has to sign off on replacing the plant. So thank you very much for your time and your presentation and the hard work of your team. Appreciate that you'll be hearing from the community as well.
Yes,
we are. So please, look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, so let me know when you want me back. Happy to come back, and any suggestions on what you need, what sort of format or information. I'm happy to bring it along. That'd be cool.
And to any members of the public who are here or online, if you have any questions that you would like answered from a technical operational perspective, I'm sure Adam will be happy to address them.
Yeah, if you can provide them in a written format, happy to respond to all of those and send them back. And the ones that we think are significant, happy to distribute that in the form of a newsline, newsletter.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much.
So can we just have someone to move that we received his report? Moved by Jackie, seconded by Tim. Did you want to debate that, Yanni?
But yeah, I just wanted, yeah, I do, but I also wanted just to make reference to noting or thanking staff for the update on the operations of the plant,
So that's an amendment.
but actually seeking with urgency a response to the other resolutions that council have passed previously in regards to support that's being offered to the community and an update on the recovery plan. And I've sent that around the community board members so you can see the wording of the council resolution.
So Jackie is the mover of the motion. You happy to have that incorporated? Yep, Tim, seconded. Yep, okay. So that's amended. Cindy's just got to get that down. So do you want to say that slowly, Yanni, so that
I've got it. Is the email you sent at 5:12?
Yeah, I mean, those are the
Okay.
resolutions that have already been passed by council.
Members, everyone moved and seconded, read that, and are happy with that.
yeah, so it's just underlining the fact that there's been resolutions of the council that haven't been fulfilled, and we're just reminding the council of that.
These are the ones.
Yeah, so I can read them out if you like. The council acknowledges, so this is what has been passed by the council. The council acknowledges that the local community is continuing to experience odours coming from the damaged Christchurch wastewater treatment plant. And requests that staff upgrade the council's website to provide a dynamic display on the landing page. I guess that's been done. And 2, re-engage key stakeholders, including health and welfare sectors. I'm also advised that that has been done. And 3, update an adaptive recovery plan and status implementation of the findings of the independent review and provide a comprehensive report back to the council in April. I think these things are all underway.
We don't know because we didn't get any information
Well,
about them today.
That's not what.
But that's not his, like, I'm not saying that that's, like, we didn't. So he reported on the operations of the plant.
Yeah.
Are you wanting a briefing from, another briefing from Brent?
Well, yeah, effectively, I think the board should be asking for an update on those things. Like, we've heard it's as bad as it's ever been. And you might know that work's underway on getting support for the community, but
Well,
full report in April, but we're running out of meetings in April at council.
all right, so we'll go with the amendment as you put it. Are you okay with that, Jackie and Tim?
I'm going to change that to community board though, because
Yeah.
we are not the council.
Yeah, the community board.
Acknowledging.
All right, with that, does anybody else want to speak to? So that's been moved. You wish to speak to that?
Yeah, just briefly, not really debate, but I just want to say how much of a tremendously difficult situation we all acknowledge it is for the residents. However, we've got to take some of the learnings from it. One is the team working at the plant absolutely busting the gut, 24 hours a day to ameliorate the smell. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And obviously, Adam was saying it's like, having the engine in a car and then it fails and then you have to hodgepodge something to keep it going. And I think they've done an amazing job at keeping our sewage moving. Unfortunately, the smell is a major problem for people, and it will probably continue to be. They'll continue to try and look to improve their processes, but it is an incredibly difficult situation for council staff. Sitting on the insurance subcommittee, as I do with the other councillors, there's a process that we have to go through to get the insurance money. It is not a quick process. It's very complicated, and we're not far away from getting that sorted, and the future will be a lot more certain. But if there was anything more they could be doing, they would be trying to do it. I mean, they feel for the residents of the local area. But these things are just not that simple. It's an incredibly complex situation, and everybody's trying to move as quickly as they can. Could the communication have been better at various times? Absolutely. I think the communication could have been a lot better. If people knew the extent of the problem and how difficult it is to go through this whole process and build such an incredibly important piece of infrastructure like this, you can't skimp on it. It has to be done properly. And these guys are working their butts off to keep this facility running in some capacity for the whole city. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, it's causing misery in the local area. And that is just something that we can't, it's their lived experience. We can't think about it if you're not affected by it. It's very hard to actually get your head around how difficult and how hard that situation is. And they're taking a bullet for the rest of us that don't live so close to it. So we need to acknowledge that, but we need to be very grateful for the work that is being done. And they're doing everything they can.
Right, thank you, Kelly.
I'll just get one clarification before we
Yes.
the confirmation. Darby, this resolution had already been passed by the council. We're just wanting an update on where the status of that resolution is at.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So happy for it to be a written update or for stuff like a community. Yeah, I think we need to get an update on those things that have previously been requested.
So
I'm open to what contact takes, but I would like to speak to this.
yes, sure, you're the mover. You can have the right of reply. So I just want to point out that that this wastewater treatment plant that we have was already out of date, and we and the council went for the cheap option when it was updated in around 2004. So I hope that by the time we get through the end of this, that we will have one that doesn't smell at all for the residents, and actually looks after the estuary and the ocean as well. So that, well, as the council has resolved to, is that there is work done to restore trust between the East End and council and us. So with that, does anyone else want to speak to this? Yanni. So Yanni will get the final speech.
But yeah, thank you. I appreciate the technical operations update, and no doubt I know staff are working at a technical level really hard to keep the plant running and to try and minimise the impact of odours. But the reality is that just about at every point of this response, it's only because of community and public pressure that we have got progress, right? So the fact is that we were supposed to get a report back in April. There is now, outside of the meeting next week, of this week, there is no more council meetings in April, except for an extraordinary meeting being called to consider the full speed management plan, draft safer speed plan. Extraordinary meeting being called to deal with that issue, and yet this issue, despite a council resolution, has still not got the comprehensive report back on what support we're providing to the people that are suffering from what was going on here. If you look at the graphs, the readings are really clear. People are experiencing well above what the health limits should be in terms of guidelines. The 0.03 ppm has been consistently exceeded on a weekly basis, sometimes nearly twice as much as that level, which results in nausea, headaches, iron throat irritation, skin irritation, sleep disturbance, and worsening asthma symptoms. So we need to act faster and we need to do more sooner. And I appreciate that people are working really hard on this issue, but why is it that when we set deadlines as a council, we still struggle to get the information to come back, we still struggle to get the reports to come back at looking after our community wellbeing, which is at the heart of what we should be doing as a city, to look after people. So look, I appreciate the update, but I'm frustrated that all the time through this response, it takes the local council simply having to bang the fist on the table time and time again to get action, even after we've passed resolutions at a council level. I think we should have built temporary trickling filters straight away as soon as possible. Some of us put that forward and asked if we could do that. I note that we didn't delay the central city planning until we'd sorted our insurance. We got on and started doing the planning straight away, right? I can see no reason why we haven't done the planning straight away around this response to this fire and this disaster. It was really clear to me that in the original adaptive recovery plan, we were supposed to have had a future plan for the site towards the end of 2022, and we still don't, to this day, have anything we can say to the local community about what we're doing looking forward. I think we need to work harder and faster on this.
Thank you, Yanni, and I'm sorry, the mover of the original motion was Jackie. Jackie, do you want to exercise your right of reply?
I'm fine, thank you.
Right, thank you. Well, the motion will now be put All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, we'll have a 1 minute recess before we move on to the rest of the meeting. We're back online. All right. Thank you, everybody. So we'll now move on to the item number 9, which is the road plan changes. You'll recall that last meeting we declined the suggestions, and we've the developer has come back with Waianiwa Place and Taipu Lane, which is very good.
I'll move it.
Yep.
Oh, second.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. And I hope that next time they are a little bit more creative with their names. Now we move to item number 10, which is Linwood Park change rooms. So, yeah, we have Richard.
Correct.
Richard.
Tēnā koutou katoa. You'll recall last year, I think it was about June, I gave a briefing on the proposed development of new buildings at Linwood Park, a new renewed council-funded changing room, and also a proposal by the Linwood Kiers, the main users of the park, to build their own club rooms. What I want to do in this report is just present the proposal for the changing rooms. We had hoped initially that we would be looking at the changing rooms and possibly the club rooms at the same time. But the changing rooms are a standard council renewal project for the existing facilities. So I just want to deal with that. And then obviously I want to present some staff recommendations for the board to consider. So just the changing rooms, we do have an opportunity to have a brief update on where the proposal for the Linwood Keys club rooms is at, if you so wish. So just to remind you of how the park looks currently and why we're where we are. This is the number 1 rugby league field here at Linwood Park, skate park here, the Linwood pool, and car parking and basketball and tennis courts already constructed over there. The current facilities that the club uses to service the number 1 field are known as the Nest, which are in a very poor state of repair. They're not fit for purpose. We just had to spend, I think it was about $50,000 actually keeping the building going. It's very small and it really doesn't meet the needs of the club, particularly for female players. And last year, when I gave a briefing, you may recall we looked at 4 or 5 proposals of where these new buildings could go. Talking to the club, talking to recreation, sports and events, and our own planners as to how this might work. We went through several iterations. We initially started looking at having the buildings right in front of the pool, and that was clearly not an option, just in terms of sight lines and blocking that view. We then separated the 2 buildings, the larger one here being the proposed club rooms, the smaller one here being the changing rooms. The idea here was really to replace the existing facilities, which are in this region, with the new building, but really there isn't enough room to do that. So then we moved both buildings further this way, and eventually ended up by separating them further so that we have a greater passage between them and keeping them physically and structurally completely independent. So that is the current proposal. Changing rooms here on the left, proposed club rooms here on the right. So I'm only talking now about the proposed changing rooms, which can be constructed, subject to various consents and approval from the board, as a standalone project that is budgeted for in the LTP. And that layout has the best flow really coming in from the car park and going between the 2 buildings. The issue for us initially is that there is some tree removal required, and that's what I need to present to you as part of this report. But just before I do that, this is a bit of a busy diagram, but it's worth saying that we've had quite a bit of design progress being made, and the template that we now have for these changing rooms is actually doubling as a design for most of the other changing room projects that we're dealing with within council, at Lancaster Park and at Littleton Recreation Ground. And the design has been enhanced, if you like, by the comments that we've received from the users of this type of facilities. And in particular, we don't now have the budget to build a 4 changing room complex as we've built in the past. So the idea is that we build 2 changing rooms, but they operate as 4 changing rooms. And that, the simple way to do that is that you come in, you get changed, you put your gear in a lockable storeroom, you go out and play. The next team, while you're playing, the next team comes in, changes, locks their gear in the second lockable storeroom within the changing room, and then they go out and the first team comes in and changes, and you can rotate like that. It does rely on obviously the timing of games so that they don't all happen at the same time, but the idea is that you can very nicely dovetail between teams as they play their games. The other angle on this is that the toilet facilities are physically separate from the changing and shower facilities, which has been a recommendation that we've adopted with the architects, and that very much enhances the gender neutral arrangement of these types of facility. We've got 2 referee or umpire facilities there. Another feature is that we've got a central service corridor between all the plumbing that's required. That is, the reason for doing that is we've had 4 changing rooms that have been vandalised recently. It caused quite a bit of damage. It's very easy to pull out fittings and steal bits and pieces. We want everything that causes the building to function to be out of sight, out of mind, and in a sort of very well securely contained corridor.
The copper bits.
All the copper bits, exactly. And you can see here we've got hot water cylinders. Again, they're completely contained. We've got 2 outward facing public toilets that again also have a separate access for maintenance. There is obviously a cost to this. We need to work through how we might be able to afford that. There may need to be some value management as part of this exercise. This is the developed design. It's not a detailed design. For example, it may be that we can reduce the space of these 4 lockable storage rooms and just have very large cupboards rather than an actual room that you walk into. But either way, we need 2 of them per changing room. So the proposed location happens to be over 5 existing trees. They're very large pine type trees, and they would need to come out in order to put this facility in that location. We could consider other locations in the park, but pretty well wherever you go, there are going to be trees in the way. So what I guess I'm recommending is to the board is that we seek approval or otherwise for the removal of those trees. If the board feels that there is further work to be carried out, then clearly that's what we will do. We have produced a tree planting plan that takes into account the tree replacement policy, where you have 2 trees replaced for every 1 removed. And these are located in a cluster here, a cluster here, and a cluster over here. So we've got 7 total trees proposed and 3 manuka. And the other point to make really is that this would form part of the urban forest plan, but in fact, Linwood Park can now become part of that, the wider urban forest plan, and then there'll be a more detailed tree planting plan produced for the park. So my recommendations are, firstly, obviously, to receive the report, and then, if it's so done, to approve proceeding to a detailed design, so that we can then put the project out to tender, apply for resource consent and building consent, and then onwards eventually to construction. We are in the financial year that theoretically should commence with construction, but that obviously won't happen until the next financial year, and we will carry forward the funding. In order to be able to move to that situation, we would then need to seek approval for removal of the 5 existing trees and replacement of 10 new ones.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
Just a question for me. So this is effectively a renewal.
It's a renewal, yeah.
Yeah. So hence there's no formal need to consult.
That's what I've been advised, yeah.
That doesn't mean that we might not want to consult, but just that's hence the approach. And if we wanted the planting, the urban forest plan stuff to be as part of this, could that? Do you think that could be?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't fast track that. It wouldn't happen this year, but it potentially could happen for next year. Yeah.
If you're removing these big mature trees, exotics, it would hopefully could and further enhance the park by planting even more super trees.
And to replace the canopy that's lost much faster as well, which I think is the main concerns.
I mean, it's more hesitant to support removing trees.
Yeah.
But if we're going to be replacing them with a big number, then I'd be happy to support. But I think I saw Yanni's hand up. Yanni?
Thank you. I mean, I would be quite keen to get an update on what's happening with the league conference. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of struggling without having a proper plan for the park, that we do these things in isolation of each other, and then we might end up with a bit of a problem at the end. So, for example, with the skate park proposal, if we don't go ahead with that, because we get feedback and we can't find the right location, whatever,
yeah,
then what happens with the pavilion? So Is it possible just to get a sense of what's happening with the league club rooms?
Yes.
Because I guess the other hope that I always had is, we would actually just do it at the same time,
Well, yeah, I think
the
the
same contractor,
yeah.
synergy.
yeah, so there, I mean, there is an obvious synergy to have those buildings done, but I suspect that the application for the lease for the Kiers club rooms is quite a lengthy process, I would say. And we could wait, I guess, until we know what we're doing with that project. I mean, I do have a Craig is here from the club. I don't know.
I'll give you a quick update.
If you want to join Richard at the end of the table there. Oops, sorry.
No, thanks very much for that. Yeah, just a quick thank you to Andrew and Richard who presented. We had an AGM in November, which is not great timing for this sort of thing because November is the end of the season for the Kiers. Basically the same presentation that was presented now from Richard, and it was fairly well received. Obviously November is not a good time. Everybody's done their winter sports and they've gone away and forgot about it till we've just started the new season. So there is a process underway to have a meeting in the next month just to firm up on where the league club's going with it and what the feeling is now. People have had a chance to sort of go back and digest the report, and yeah, we're not sure. Like, obviously, I understand the timeframes of these sort of things, but a lot of people don't. So it's taking them back to the league club and actually going through the whole process of this is going to take time. Obviously, the nest isn't suitable. It's a dangerous facility, and we can't continue with it. It would be nice to do the whole thing as one unit, but obviously there's a lot more hoops that the league club will have to go through for it to get its facility, as opposed to these new changing sheds. So I think the club's really supportive of these changing sheds going ahead as soon as possible. Ideally, we would like to piggyback on the changing sheds, but realistically, I think with the process, with there's the skate park, the skate park to obviously be considered, and whether it's moved or removed altogether or whatever, that I assume that would take a fairly lengthy process and public consultation, whereas hopefully the changing shed will get done for us for obviously not this season, but the following season.
So, sorry, but how close is the league club to having their plans? Like, do they have plans for a facility, or is it still being worked through?
Sorry, no, we don't have any. Well, the only plans we have are the concept plans that were presented at the last board meeting. It wasn't probably the last board meeting, but the last time we presented. So but they were fairly well received as far as concept. So it's only a case of getting the architects to do the working drawings. I would assume 2 or 3 months. But
right, thank you very much. I think we can only deal with the changing room question now. We don't have we unfortunately we can't have everything that we want and everything lined up for a row. So if there are any more questions that specifically about the changing rooms, members have them. You do have a question?
Well, yeah, like I'm just trying to get my head around like doing it now. I appreciate there's a need in terms of putting all those services in, which will be really expensive, I presume.
Well,
is there a way we can future-proof it for the pavilion?
Absolutely.
Pavilion, the league club rooms go next to the changing shed, that we can kind of just do something in the meantime?
We absolutely can. The services would all come in off Linwood Avenue. Right. And because they've got to come up past where club rooms could potentially go, there's no reason why it can't be future-proofed for connections. And the services all exist down at that end anyway. So
2 other questions from me. One is, as part of the consent, has there been any assessment of the car parking requirements? Because I'm mindful that we're taking away a lot of car parking around Linwood Park at the same time that we're increasing the sports field capacities.
No, I mean, I have had the consent requirements summarised in terms of what we would need to go through. Obviously, we haven't applied for any consent at this point because we don't have any approval to do so until after this meeting.
It's a lot of parking.
Yeah, but we do have a planning document that would summarise whether we would need any more parking or not. But until you actually apply for it, you don't really know what response you'll get. We have, I know, in the past talked about whether there might be some car parking opposite on the Smith Street depot. And that may be a requirement of the consent, I don't know until it's actually looked at by planners.
And then the final question from me is just in regards to the tree removal. So I'm really concerned at agreeing to remove the trees without consultation. We just had a presentation about the archery club. And apparently the trees were one of the biggest reasons why that lease wasn't extended. So, yeah, and given the significance of the trees, healthy, very mature.
They're actually not that healthy.
Right.
The reports in the briefing, they're fair. Two are fair and one is pretty poor. One's on an angle of looks fairly. But I mean, we'll obviously whatever be guided by what the outcome is.
It's not normal to consult on tree removals either. Like I don't.
Yes, it is.
No. When was the last time we consulted on a tree removal?
We just had a discussion over next to the Parkland.
Oh, the Parkland one, yeah, that's true.
So it's actually quite normal. We normally would consult on tree removals specifically if they were large, mature trees.
Because those ones were healthy, though, weren't they?
Process in which you had to.
It was also a separate. It was
Different process.
Different process, yes.
Okay, that's, so order, please, just hold on. The process was different for that one, the Parklands one, is that the community said, we want you to remove these trees. And so that had to go through a consultation, whereas this is a project where that is initiated by the council and it's consistent with existing plans.
Yes, but we were also told previously at the last briefing that the next step was community consultation, and that hasn't happened.
The consultation was, perhaps that was a bit ambiguous. I mean, the consultation just was put in there if the two buildings were going to be done concurrently, and then clearly we'd have to go for consultation for the.
But this being a renewal.
But this is a renewal.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the assessment of the trees that I've got is the initial assessment is that 4 are in fair condition, and 2 are in poor condition. And 2 are in good health, and 2 are in fair health, and only 1 is in poor health and 1 is in poor structure. So, and they're all mature.
That's true.
That's quite significant.
All right, so that's 2 questions. Do any other members have any questions? All right, well, thank you very much for your report.
Okay.
And and well, Linwood Cares continued hoping for a good year.
Thank you.
I think I had Jackie's happy to move.
Second.
Oh, and second, Jackie, would you like to speak to that?
I just think it's a renewal. I think we should just press on with it. I understand there might be some resistance with, to removal of the trees, but there's replacement like for like. I think it's more important to get these changing sheds in and up and running, for these sports people to get out there and play. And I don't see any reason to hold back.
Thank you. Look, I mean, absolutely that nest pavilion needs to go, and we need a new pavilion in there, changing rooms. I do feel a bit upset that we're not consulting people in Linwood. It seems, it's the same thing with the swimming pool. It says get on and get it built. And what we see in places like Hornby when they do consult is the community actually come up with a number of good ideas, good suggestions, good improvements. And I can't recall if the St. Albans pavilion was consulted on, but personally, I think we actually should be engaging our community, and whether something's a renewal or a replacement, the reality is this is a significantly different facility than what's currently there. It's significantly needed. But I am very concerned around the trees. I totally understand the reason for removing them, but I do think we should be consulting on them. So I won't support, I have to support 1, but I won't support 2. I hope you put that separate.
No, it's been moved.
It's been moved.
It's been moved as one motion.
That doesn't matter. You can still put it separately.
Keep going.
You're not going to. Why are you not going to?
Because it's been moved as one motion. If you wanted it, that's the way it's been put. I know that happens at council all the time, but I don't think it's within standing orders.
Anyway, so look, like you've just said earlier today, around what happened at the archery, right? You saw what happened with the trees and parkings as well. So I think we should actually be taking people with us. And I do think we should be consulting the community over the removal of these significant mature trees. And fundamentally, and I feel very disappointed that we've been unable to get an updated plan for Linwood Park, because I think there's a whole bunch of issues around it in terms of the spatial planning that we need to get our heads around, because what you do in one place has a reaction to another place. For example, there has been significant potential loss of car parking proposed at some parts around the park, and also that has been a concern that has been raised with the new pool and the club rooms going in. So unless we look at the big picture, I think we will run into some issues around it, but totally understand the need for the changing shed. So if you're not going to put it separately, then I'll just abstain, which is a shame, because it's something that I've been supporting for a very long time to get this building in place. But I do think we should engage around the trees.
Anyone else wish to speak? Well,
Alex has raised his hand.
oh, has he?
Yeah.
Are you there, Alex?
I'd just like to call for a division if that's okay.
You can call for a division, yes. Just to finish that off, this is, it's just, I think it's great that we get a new changing sheds for all the great sports from around Linwood and Wilson and Bromley that use that field, and it's about time. And unfortunately we can't do it all at once, and we are going to have to take down some exotic trees to do it, which is why I'm really keen, as I said before, to get more trees planted into the urban forest plan. So hopefully we can bring that forward, and if we can just have it noted that was discussed here, and so that the arborist can get back to us, that would be great. I mean, I don't think that the parking issues are that severe. Yes, on game day it's pretty busy, but I mean, I drove past there on game day the other day and it was busy, but there's also plenty of parking down Linwood Ave, and there's still parking at by Toi Toi, and it's just like this is something to be celebrated, and I'm excited about. So with that, the motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
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 Abstentions? Abstentions. So we'll just make sure that's noted down. All right, the motion is carried. So moving on to number 11, which is the leasing of red zoned former driveways of Rocking Horse Road to adjacent neighbours. Now,
Thanks.
I'll just sort of get a assessment whether there's likely to be a lot of questions on this, or whether people are just.
There'll be a few questions.
There'll be a few questions. All right.
Sorry, Dan.
That's all right. Now, the thing that stands out from in terms of what needs to be addressed is why not sell it to people who want to buy it? And it sounds like it's very expensive and costly. Well, that's the same thing. Very costly and complicated.
Yeah, so are you happy if I just move to answering the question, take the report as read?
Yes, if that's all right with everyone. Yep. Right.
Okay, so I'm here, I guess, representing not only Parks but also the property team. Haven't sent a person. We consulted, as you're probably aware, we consulted last year via the project on sale of these properties. That was how it was put out to the community, and it was quite well supported. We then put that up in the draft LTP as a proposal to sell. The property team pulled that recommendation on the basis of the costs, the legal fees and the survey fees outweighing or potentially outweighing the value that we'd get back in the sale. So effectively they thought it would make money for the surveyors and the lawyers rather than council, as well as some hesitancy around selling land prior to the chat program being carried out in this area. And so some sensitivity around that. Those are the two reasons, and they're outlined in the report. So we went then with what we thought was the next best outcome, which was long-term leases of 35 years less a day, which gives people, to all intents and purposes, a similar outcome, and sort of win-win, allows council to not have to keep cleaning graffiti off the fences and picking rubbish up from these access ways.
Sorry.
Sorry, that's the end of my answer.
End of your answer. Does anyone else have any questions?
I'll just fire away with a couple.
Yeah, keep
Was
going.
that
Sorry,
okay?
I assume you had a few more.
That's okay, I've been liaising. So with the expressions of interest that you got at the Bridge Hub that night, have you been in contact with those people again?
Not yet, because we don't really have an update until after this meeting. So we haven't gone out and said we're thinking about this. We wanted to get a steer and then we'll go out and update everyone, and the property team will contact every person that's on either side of one of these right of ways, so no one will get missed out.
Okay, what if there's a case where there's one right away and two people want it?
So the idea there is that we would negotiate for them to be able to put a fence down the middle and they each.
And they each have a part of it?
Yeah, unless there were, in some cases, there are situations where it's part of someone's driveway. So they might have 2/3 of the driveway and we've got 1/3. We obviously then wouldn't divide up that third and make it something you couldn't get a car down. So we just have to be a little bit mindful.
I suppose there's also like they could have a half and half lengthwise instead of widthwise.
Yeah, so it's going to have to be a little bit sort of horses for courses based on the type of interest that we get back. Obviously, we won't do anything silly, so we'll enter into negotiations. If we can't get a negotiation that works for everyone, we're under no obligation to lease them. We'll just keep on holding them.
Okay, and do they have to pay rates on that section?
The property team was still coming back with some advice on that. I wouldn't expect that they do, because none of our other leasees pay rates. They just pay whatever the lease price is, and usually that's a put-upon rental of $1.
And if they sold the property, that lease just continues on to the new owner?
I believe that would just pass on. Yeah, that would be on the agreement would be with the title, not with the individual.
So once we do this today, if it passes, you'll just get in contact with the people after that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Tim and then Celeste.
Just making sure that technically there won't have to be an indemnity insurance if you lease the land?
It's a good question, because typically that is included in our leases. So that's a good point. I'll make sure that doesn't hold things up, because these are different to our other ones where it's a community group. It's effectively leasing land to a private individual.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if it was a year ago or 4 years ago you came here and showed us the first plans. We were looking at selling them.
I think it was only a year ago.
It was a year ago, is it? Just
it wasn't 4.
But when I read this, I was, first of all, I was surprised. I thought, oh, it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, makes sense.
Celeste?
If someone's renting a property and you negotiate with the owner, is there kind of how that work? I'm just wondering whether you negotiate with the owner, but also with the person that's renting the property.
I don't know. I guess if we do, because we have to contact everyone, so probably the first place would be a letter drop so that the tenant would get it. But I guess the property team can also check the LIM records as well. I don't know is the answer to that one. I think again it'll be sort of horses for courses.
So
Sure.
just to follow up, so the people that expressed interest initially, will they be prioritised?
I don't think this process will take overly long. So I think what we'll do is we'll contact everyone at the same time. So we won't go and contact sort of one and then wait and then the next one. I think everyone will get contacted at the same time. And then we'll just enter into negotiations.
I was actually kind of meaning that if there's someone else that comes in later and says they wish to express interest, would the initial person be preference over that person?
Yes, I guess the point of this would be that when the lease is signed, that'll be for that full period. And so if someone, say there's an instance where someone enters into a lease and then 2 years later, house next to them changes hands, that person then wants to get in on a share of it, it's too late really, that lease has already been struck. So this would be a one sort of point in time discussion.
Yeah.
As it kind of has to be. Otherwise people have to keep moving the fences back.
That's cool.
Any other questions?
What does peppercorn mean? Is it $1 or is it
$1?
It's
Yeah, it's $1 a year, which is every lease that we have is on that basis, other than one commercial outfit in the Port Hills.
Are there any sort of provisions where you can revoke a lease if someone, maybe it becomes derelict and, I don't know, they start doing something silly on that land?
Yep, the standard conditions have clauses around having to maintain it, things like that, yep.
Any other questions? No? Okay, would someone like to move then? Moved by Celeste, seconded by Tim. All right, motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. All right, motion is agreed to.
Thank you, David.
All right.
Actual meeting.
So I'm just, sorry, I know that you're waiting, but we have some much shorter items, which I think, which all have the same staff member attached to them. So I might do those first before we have you come on.
No, I know, we want to go home, yeah.
If you'd like to join us for items 13 through 16.
Sorry, not sorry.
Actually really grateful.
So
Yeah.
we'll come back to correct. So we have the bus stop upgrade on Elizabeth Drive. I'll just get an indication if anybody has some questions around any of these. Any questions around the bus stop? No. Bray Street. So Aston Drive. Sorry, Yanni, what, you had a question about what, sorry?
Bray Street.
Bray Street, I'll just take a note. Aston Drive, you have a question, Joe?
Yeah.
About that? Okay, I'll just make a note of that. Edmund Street. No questions. All right, so question about so the bus stop upgrades, we can would someone like to move the bus stop upgrade? Moved by Greg, seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Carried. Now, Bray Street. Yeah, yes, any questions?
It's the same for Edmund Street, but I'm just increasing concern of the intensification impact on access to properties, especially for services like waste trucks, recycling trucks. So I'm just wondering, like, is anyone looking at the consenting and looking at shortfalls in the consenting in terms of the traffic that's been generated and the capacity of the street to be able to cope?
Yes, so I think I briefly mentioned this to Cindy earlier, but that's probably more of a network planning kind of question.
Right.
We just deal with what we've got in front of us, or if we're aware of safety issues and things like that. So this issue was brought to us before actually the housing intensification occurred. It was someone, Bray Street particularly, was someone trying to access their property, when they were just standalone houses, unable to access them. So that's what, where I was coming from for this particular street. In terms of when we do have people come to us with queries around housing intensification, what we do is we look at it from the perspective of, okay, well, what's actually happening on the street? Because obviously with narrower streets, there's another issue that's separate, which is access, whereas some people just find the inconvenience of not being able to park outside the property is another thing. So in that case, we look at parking surveys for the area in those cases. When it's 75% or over, then we can look at timed parking restrictions. But in these cases with narrow streets, that wouldn't be appropriate because it actually wouldn't solve if there were people parked there, for 2 hours on both sides between 8 and 6. That still causes a problem.
The access problem, yeah. So if we wanted to kind of elevate this to a more strategic response, given that we've got a number of intensive housing in build.
I would approach
to ask
network planning.
Network planning.
I did talk with one of the people from network planning, and his response was basically that I think more economically we wouldn't be able to look to provide car parking for that situation.
Yeah.
So I know Edmund Street, the houses on the units do have car parking spaces. One per unit, probably.
It's not so much the car parking as much as the safe access and the ability for services to be provided, like the big trucks that need to go down.
So if only there were a body above the community board whose job it was to make strategic decisions across the city. And if only there were people on that body whose job it was to consider these issues outside of the community board table.
Yeah, so I think it would be good for the board, like the Spread and Catchment Board has done, is to actually raise this issue at the council when next goes to report back. Because it's clear that there's a number of things happening around intensification where we don't have growth projects or we don't have good planning controls around things like safe access. And there's a number of streets in the report today. So
given our time restrictions, can we deal with the strategic issue offline and deal with this particular issue now?
So do you want me to raise it? I can raise it.
Well, we might not have a lot of effective members information exchange. So my question is, what are you seeking in this? Because we have a staff recommendation. Are you going to amend, to move an amendment to include something in this?
I think we should at least get a noting revision that the board raises with the network planning team concern at the impact of intensive housing on the network in terms of safety and access, and ask what strategic work has been going on to look at that issue.
So what are you suggesting? Just a noting provision?
Well, I'm happy with a noting provision. If you want to raise it at council, great. Or we can have a formal resolution. It's easiest.
Well, I'm really do you have a preference because you're raising it? Do you want to include it in the resolution that we have recommendation? You can move a resolution, the staff recommendation plus and include noting provision.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So no, can you dictate?
The board note was concerned the impact of increased intensification.
Slow down. The impact of
Increased intensification on safety and access, and ask what work is being done by the network planning team to look at this strategic issue as a strategic issue.
to look at this or address this.
Address it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so would you like to move that whole thing, yeah? All right, do we have a seconder? Jackie? Motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So that was Bray Street. I will note that it would be good if the council had proper committees to deal with these kinds of issues that don't just, because if you have a committee that can have things on the agenda that are of specific interest, that would potentially be a lot more efficient. Aston Drive, item number 15, Joe.
Yeah, just the initial request was for the yellow lines all the way down the north side of North Aston. And you put a couple of reasons in there why they weren't considered, but I shared the plan the other day on the Facebook page down there, and a few other people asked again, why can't we have the yellow lines going in? Would you actually consider taking them a bit further?
No, not really, because otherwise where does it end, like we wouldn't put in the report, it said there's space for them to yield. It's not necessarily a visibility issue or a concern at that point. So if we were going to extend it like a little bit to try and keep some people happy, then, whether it's going outside of
I just
our
think that position where the bollards are right along that side of the road would probably actually put some people off parking there anyway. Then you've got the little what do you call them, inlet things where the bus stops are close to, and cars park. But if you had cars parked on both sides of the road, it would be really, really narrow.
Yeah, so we like to keep it somewhat narrow in spaces like that, because we also get complaints about speeding. So having cars parked there actually deters people from being able to speed.
Yes, I was just thinking because going down there myself, it seems if there was a car parked on both sides, it would actually be too narrow for a bus to get through.
Well, it's according to our measurements, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I
It's
just
not
want to
hidden.
check.
Yeah, that's good. We
Thank you.
haven't had any concerns raised regarding that.
Excellent, thank
you.
Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. You know, I was a little bit confused by this when looking at it. It certainly makes sense to me, the yellow lines around the corner. I just thought with the Facebook post, I actually wondered whether that was actually another part that I'd sort of missed, that yellow lines were going right along that north side. But then when I read the post by Michael Shirley, everyone's agreeing to yellow lines around the corner, not necessarily, extend along the long side. So what is the threshold for putting yellow lines on the north side? I mean, when would you do that? If the road was already too narrow, or?
If the road was too narrow, we'd probably look at staggering it a bit more so that it's not, we don't usually like to just have them kind of painted on one particular side. But then that's kind of a question of, well, what's fair for each property, that would come down to quite a lot of consultation for that. But yeah, anything, like under 8 meters, 7 meters, under 7 meters, we don't really consider for that, because that's taking into account, if there's a truck parked on one side and a car parked on another, that would still only be 4.5 meters. So that allows quite a space in between for another vehicle to move through.
Okay, good answer. That really makes sense.
Right, someone happy to move?
Yep.
Moved by Greg, seconded by Joe. Which will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. And so now Edmund Street, and there's no additional questions about this. It was covered by the Braithwaite questions. Moved by Jackie, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
For all the questions. So we'll now go to item number 12, which is craft.
We weren't that long. No,
Just to summarise, the staff recommendation. And Deputy Chair.
Sorry.
Just to summarise, that the staff recommendation reflects what the board's recommendation was in our public briefing after we had some extensive discussion, and it's not ideal, but it reflects trying to get the best out of the limited funds we have. That's my understanding. So if you want to just run down anything additional you think we should know?
There are just two additional points. Thank you for clarifying that the report formalises the guidance that was given on the 29th of March briefing. So the 2 points of clarification is that the construction on the Linwood Ave School slip lane is starting next Monday on the 15th of April, which is the start of the school holidays, and is expected to last for approximately 3 weeks.
Very good, and they're very excited.
Yes, we've had some fantastic feedback. Andrew, the project manager, has had some fantastic feedback from them. And the reason, the reason why this is going ahead now is that it was previously approved as a project in the Linwood and Woolston Craft program, so no changes to that. And the second point of clarification is that the removal of the Te Awatai College pedestrian and cycle access project from the Linwood and Woolston Craft program has already been approved by Finance and Performance. And even though this decision is included in this decision paper today, the decision is, the paper just endorses the decision that's already been made in Finance and Performance. And that's it, so open for any questions.
All right, and although there have been quite a few questions, from Councillor Johansson on email. I'm sure he has some right now.
I just want to check around the process. When the board originally adopted the correct priorities, my understanding was the people that made submissions were given a notice, a letter to say the report's coming to council. You know, if you were speaking rights, come along and talk to us. Is that correct?
So the consultation that was done in all the 5 craft areas was not on projects, it was on a very high level. So it was, we have this money from Crown, Treasury, tell us about the problems that you are experiencing in your area. But it was 7 very high level subjects, so things like speed, landscaping. So there was no consultation on specific projects. That makes sense. So we went back to those people at the time and said, thank you for your feedback. This report, we've been working with the community board. This report is considering, the program is being considered on this date. My recollection is that there was one resident from Lion Street who came along and advocated for the Lion Street project, and that was the only one.
So are the residents that we consulted on then and notified them, have they been notified about this report today?
No.
And why wouldn't we notify them as a note of courtesy? So that they could come and give the feedback. And I'm particularly thinking of people on Lion Street who think the project's on budget, think the project's been agreed, and have almost no knowledge that it's been put on hold, and no ability to talk to us.
I guess the decision on that has been made because the feedback that was received at the briefing, the last briefing from the board, was that there's really no way that that decision could be changed. The money in the program is not sufficient for the Wine and Holbert Street projects. There will be communication with the residents of Wine and Holbert Street to let them know that this decision when a decision has been made, but that hasn't happened yet. We're waiting for a decision.
I just, so if we wanted to let people know and lay the report on the table for 2 weeks or to the next board meeting, what would be the implications of doing that?
Well, I guess just the other decisions, nothing can progress on the other projects in that timeframe. I'm just unsure how much additional information would be required to help with that decision making at this point.
What is the outcome you're after, Yanni?
So that people that have been participating in this process feel that they've been included in the process and can give feedback over the priorities. Right?
So I'm just not resisting the decision if there is one, but if the Wyon and Herbert Street one is an example, that's more expensive than the entire fund. So if we were to say, come, have your say, it would be pointless because we literally cannot afford to pay for that project at all. So it's kind of, it seems like we would be wasting their time and ours to do that. So like I'm like, rather than when you say feel like they're included in what?
When the board makes decisions, like under the Local Government Act, we have an obligation to take into account the views of our community. And so, certainly as we prioritise, some other boards have actually just put one craft project because of the cost, right? And there's no reason why this board couldn't consider something similar, or which I still think we should do, is to go to council and say, because of the delay and because of the extra cost, we'd like you to fund, the shortfall, like we've done for the Village. Because a number of these projects were actually put into the CERT program, right, without any engagement with the local community or without a community board decision. So I just think it's the right thing to do, is to let people know when we're making decisions about things that they've submitted on, how we're making decisions and when we're making decisions, and give them the opportunity to come and give their views. So, which to me that's kind of point.
So you're after an ideal outcome which we can't achieve.
Sorry, I disagree that we can't achieve it, and I disagree that hearing from people in terms of feedback is not important. But the second question I had on the Wine Street one in particular, if it is cancelled, there was a second, I don't quite know what you call it, but a sort of second coat or seal. There's already been some money spent on it. did that second coat get done, or is that program to be done if we don't go ahead with this decision?
So the first coat seal was done last year in 23. The second coat was put on hold until this work was completed. However, Waitai and Holbert Street has now been included for consideration for the next financial year's reseal program because it needs a reseal. So that would then essentially becomes that second coat seal.
Right, and as part of that process, what ability do we have to look at the different scope? Like, is it basically just, it's a very technical thing and there's no ability to address any of the...
If it's done under maintenance, it'll just be a chip seal surface. It'll be repair the surface, that's it.
Alex? Sorry, Alex. Oh, sorry, you want to answer?
So just to clarify as well, so we haven't done any public consultation on Waitai and Holbert Street. Obviously it was included in the original craft program, but for all number of reasons, we will initiate a project and start a project and they don't continue. So that could be because of funding, change in circumstances. So this is certainly not the only instance where this has happened, where a project has been initiated and then it may not be going ahead with.
Yeah, but it isn't an LTP. It is currently in the draft LTP. We are consulting on it.
Waitai and Holbert Street as a craft project.
So I mean, Yanni raises something, raises a point is that the consultation documents that have these projects in them, and that there was no, and Yanni's been trying to get them amended so that that's accurately reflected in those documents. I'm interested to know why they haven't been taken out, or there haven't been some inclusion in the consultation document as to what's happening with these projects.
Is it a timing shift?
I was going to say, yeah, it's exactly a timing shift. Yeah, I mean, the projects that went into draft LTP were finalised in sort of January, February.
Yeah, well, I wonder if that might be the case. Alex, did you have a question?
No, it's all good.
So what was that, Jan?
Sorry, we didn't when we approved the draft LTP, the consultation document, we had the revised figures for Lion Street. So there was no reason why they couldn't include in that document. But I think the most important thing going forward is there a way we can get the community to understand what's happened with the costs in the LTP so that they can make submissions if they support us doing it, so that they can kind of be informed about what's going on.
So I two things. One, like I would like our community board to support including in our submission to the LGP support for Waitai and Herbert Street. But in this decision tonight, we cannot allocate the funding. So what I hope that members will support is that we approve the ones, we approve the staff recommendation, and especially number one, because we actually, that's the best outcome that we can get. And we will start construction on things, and then we will be able to get investigation into things, all things that we want to happen. So I'm not sure what other option we actually have, and like $6.5 million for Waitai and Herbert Street, I hope that we can get it. And the other two, the area-wide speed restriction project and Te Aratai, we know what's happening with those. So I just don't know, unless anybody has any suggestions to what else we could do tonight. I think that this is a resolution that we should support.
Only got two numbers in Lopper, sorry.
Huh?
Only got two numbers in Lopper.
No, that's right. So do we have any more questions of staff? Question?
Yeah. Just a question. Just in terms of the road renewal list, I've not been able to get a list of the roads and their rankings. So some of the craft projects were projects that people wanted in terms of roading renewal because we were spending a lot on maintenance. So the question is, can we get a list of the roads in terms of the renewal program so we know where they are? Because I think if we're gonna go to council and argue for funding, we'll go to NZTA. Around like Wine Street or Holwood Street being renewed, then it would be good to know where they sit on that list. So is there a list of the priorities and where do these two fit in that, if there is?
So this is a request that I think you already had via Cindy, but if you want to.
I was going to say the list isn't finalised yet, but the way it's looking, certainly the first two, so Wine and Holbert, are reasonably high. They're in the top 20 at the moment, but there's still quite a bit of work to do.
But when you do have that list, it would be great to see it. Yeah.
Right. So can I just just to kind of unpack that though, in terms of the progress at which councils doing renewals, if they were in the top 20, what's the likely timeframe for them getting the sector?
I mean, given the
Point of order, Chair.
Sorry, point of order must be heard. Yes, Alex. What's your point of
Oh,
order?
I just think this is irrelevant because the question has already been asked, and when staff will know, they'll get back to us.
I think I'll thanks for your point of order. I think I'll just let's answer that, and then and then I think that will be the end of questions.
I was going to say it's very budget dependent. At the moment, what are we getting through? Probably 2 or 3 a year, given the budget. So a little while.
All right. So we'll look forward to hearing the answer. Right. Thank you. I think that you've addressed all our questions. If you want to take a seat back in the gallery, I think we'll have our right here. So I'd like to move the staff recommendation. Seconded by Jackie. I wish we had a Labor government that was committed to craft, but we don't. We have another government that doesn't want to fund all these projects.
Point of order.
I'm allowed to say whatever I like.
Okay, that's what I want to check, because you seem to do a lot of editorialising, and I think we all like to get on with it.
Excuse me, I'm speaking to a motion that I have moved.
Okay, if you like.
So we are all allowed to do that when we're speaking to debate. It's not editorialising.
I
That's
apologise.
speaking
I
to
thought
a
that was
debate.
I didn't think it was in debate. I thought you were outside debate, but since you're in debate, you go if you like.
I moved the motion and I started to speak on the debate.
And
So-
like I said, I apologise for that.
All right, accept it. I wish we had a Labor government that was committed to surf and craft. We don't, unfortunately. So we have to deal with the implications, and unfortunately, the burden of these projects, these projects being defunded, falls on the east of Christchurch, and so we have to make the best of what we can do. And these projects and I know that we all support these projects, and that's great. And so I would like us to get on and get these projects done, and to try and get our awesome multifaceted council to support these other projects in the long-term plan and future long-term plans, and including Wyong and Hilbert Street. Please, I ask you members if you would support this motion, despite it not being ideal. Anybody else want to speak?
I'd like to agree with my esteemed colleague. I wish we did have a government that would be prepared to fund these sort of initiatives, but as he points out, we don't, and so we have to deal with it, which he also points out, so I'm supporting it.
Thanks, Carl.
It's nothing to do with government.
Oh, it is.
Or coloured government.
Government.
Order, please. Look, this is debate. Let's keep it orderly. I think, Jackie, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Oh, you did, and then yeah.
I just want to support this motion. I've sat looking at craft things now for a number of years, and I really want to see some of these projects get underway and actually get built and get done. I do think it's unfortunate that the current government pulled the craft funding and has prevented some very necessary projects from going ahead, but fully in support of the ones that we have previously endorsed, and I'd like to see them completed. Thanks.
We have had 3 speakers speak in favour of this. Yeah, I'll ask you shortly.
Yeah, very short. Just to clarify a few things. Actually, the new government has put additional money in for CRAF. So for people attacking the current government over this, I don't think that's very fair at all. There's been additional subsidy that's come from Waka Kotahi to supplement some of these CRAF funds. And yeah, I hope you all got the memo about that, but we can circulate it so you can see. If any blame goes on anyone for not delivering the CRAF projects, it's council. The government gave us the money. They have not changed the amount of money other than increase it for CRAF recently. So the surf projects were cut. And at the time, I said I didn't agree with putting pause on the CRAF projects to do the surf projects. And ultimately what that's meant is that these projects have taken longer and they're now costing more. But there's also been a lot of work around investigation too that have driven up the costs. But fundamentally, I think we do need to get on with some of these projects. So I'm happy to support one, but I don't agree with removing these projects from our program. I think we should keep them on the program and argue for funding for them. So for me, 2 doesn't quite address that. And I think there needs to be, I'd like to move an amendment in 2 that we ask.
So all this is on the table at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're wanting to amend
to seek the projects, and it's a bit awkward because I is different, but that's fundamentally what we should be asking for is that the Wine Street and the Holbert Street renewal projects get put into the LTP. We've heard that those streets are in bad condition. We've heard that they are likely to be, within the top 20. And I think we should be making a case for it. So I'll ask that an amendment be put in terms of 2, that we remove the Wine Street and Holbert Street renewal projects from that and put them and make a request that they go into that LTP.
So just so we're now not you've now moved. I don't know if you have a seconded yet. So I just want to, in terms of process, like that putting it in, we can't put it in the LTP using this an amendment here. It's not going to put it in the LTP.
So they remain in the CRAF project as unfunded, subject to the board making submission to have them funded in the LTP.
Sorry, I don't know what they can't remain in this. I think we might need some advice here, whether it's actually, because we can't pass it if it's not implementable.
Can it be in the board submission?
Like,
We've made a note as per the discussion earlier to include it in the board submission on the LTP, which will go straight in tomorrow before I send it to the submissions committee.
So that what's I'm trying to so.
Does that include the cycleway as well?
Sorry, can we just have a bit of order here? I want to clarify what the outcome because I don't. If we put it in this, it doesn't make any difference. Like it doesn't do anything. It just has it in the motion.
It's current. So just to be clear, it's currently being consulted on as part of the LTP. So there's a budget line item for this project in the LTP for CRAF.
Yes.
So to remove it now, before the LTP consultation is concluded, I don't think makes good sense. I think we should leave it in the program. We know that there's a component of it that's not going to continue at the moment because of the funding. But I don't think until the LTP is finalised that we should be making the call to remove it from the CRAF project.
Okay.
Well, the other two, like the area 1 speed restriction is already being funded. Yeah. The Te Aroha College Worker Council has already made that decision as well. So this is the only one that is effectively being wiped from the program if we made that call today, and I don't think we should.
No, okay. I think we need some advice whether this is actually possible. Bearing in mind that staff will turn to pumpkin soon. Jacob, are you able to provide advice on whether?
Honestly, no.
Oh, you're not. Okay. No, that answers the question. I don't actually know whether what you're saying is reasonable or not, Yami, to be honest.
There wouldn't be CRAF projects regardless if they're funded from elsewhere.
They're not going to be CRAF projects anyway. Like it doesn't. I want this project done. I think we all would like this project to be done. It needs to be funded in the LTP. We are going to put it in our submission. You are going to support it when it comes to the LTP comes to the council table. So, Alex, do you have your hand
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify two things. It's a question of clarification for the chair. I didn't think that we could put an amendment, or that a councillor could put an amendment foreseeing a community board's submissions panel on a submission to the LTP, because it's my understanding that that's only for community board members.
Yeah, well, no, but that's not that.
I have an amendment not to
This is-
remove it.
So it's amendment. So this is what I disagree in terms of process. I don't think that there is any point in modifying this motion. So that's and so if you get a seconder, then we can debate it. But my recommendation is that we don't amend this motion that way. So is there a seconder? Okay, there is no seconder. So we move back to the substantive. Where you were speaking on substantive, you spoke in favour of the substantive. So the motion, we're now going to put it.
And you won't put two separate, right?
No, I'm not putting it separately. No, it's already on the table.
Could I once again call for a division?
You can call for a division, sure. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Where's division, mate?
It means that you have the vote noted down. So
Okay.
all those in favour, aye.
Cool.
It's unanimous. Abstentions.
Yeah, I know, but he asked for a division, so
Yeah.
we are doing a division, so.
All right.
More attention, okay.
Aye.
Jackie? Aye. Tim? Holly?
Aye.
Celeste? Yes. Alex?
Yes.
Johnny? Greg?
Yes.
Joe?
No.
Thank
Dennis said yes.
He said no. He said yes.
Oh, you said aye.
You said aye? Or
He
you
said
said-
no, sorry. I'll take that back.
Thank you, councillor.
Right, I will fix that up for tomorrow. Now.
All right, so now we have the Stitcho Mat.
Yes.
Approved. Second by Tim. Well, no, it's moved by Joe, seconded by Tim. All those in favour say aye.
Stop. Start again, who moved and seconded, sorry?
Joe and Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob and Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favour, aye.
Yes.
Yes, carried. Now the era report, there's a lot of things in the report. I think you only had a question, it was about Bromley, was it?
Yeah.
What's the question?
When are we consulting on it, or when are we getting the draft report?
There was actually an email response to this question. If I can find it. So we'll be able to provide an update in May. May is the answer.
Is that the actual plan will be finalised in May and consulted, or we're just getting an update?
Staff have been in a position to give an update in May, following the changes from SURF and CRAF and the separating of all the projects again. Staff will be in a position to provide the board with an update in May as to next steps.
That's when I spoke in debate before I moved SURF, because SURF is introduced CRAF, as you ultimately predicted, Yanni. Yes, so yes, Bromley's delayed some more, and that's frustrating for us all. Any other questions of Chris? Anything you want to draw our attention to, Chris?
So I just have one other question, which is around the waste, around the organics plant. The Hornby people have a timeline for the new plant. I'm just wondering, do we have a time frame for that can be shared with us? But also, have we had an update on the resource consent that was supposed to be applied for Cape Valley to process the organics, existing organics? Or if not, can we get some information on that?
It's not something I can answer, but if you email the board email address.
I'll put it through, yeah. So, cool, thanks.
All right, any further questions? Anything else?
No, it's just want to thank the team. It's a really good report, and in there is your monitoring report as well for your board plan, so you can have that. We kind of timed it for this one, so it was in front of the board for your LTP submission, because a lot of stuff relies on the LTP. So,
And I do think, just thank you and your team, Chris, for your continued service of the board and the community, and also just, I think it's really, we have quite a concrete, achievable community work plan, and it's good to be able to see those things being ticked off. So, all right, item number 19, elected members information exchange. Oh, sorry. Moved by moved by me, seconded by Tim. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, item number 19, elected members information exchange. Now, we have run over time. If there's any information that members need to provide of some importance, then we have time for that. But we will need to help staff to pack the room up.
Apologies, I've just got to go right now. Got to go to a meeting.
That's all right. Thanks, Joe. All right. Anything?
This is one thing that's on your raise, which was the complaints around the Tilford Street, the parking on the berms. So I did raise this as part of the crack thing, but was told that we needed to raise it separately.
So what was this?
So there's been a number of complaints now with the overspill parking on Tilford Street, particularly around like berms. So the idea was that if we're doing works in Tilford Street, is there something we can consider around trying to address that issue at the same time?
Is it people parking on the berms?
Yeah, and close to driveways as well. So it's a safety issue.
To stop them doing it, you're asking?
Well, it might be as simple as when we're doing the construction that we, maybe put a few things in, or maybe put some extra yellow lines or something, I don't know. But it just seems if we're going to spend hundreds of thousands on Tilford Street, then why don't we look at it and see if there's any improvements?
If anybody does see people parking on berms, they can snap and solve it. But
it's a policing thing, isn't it?
No, it's a bylaw.
It's a bylaw, yeah, because it's council, it's road reserve.
So council ticket them?
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think
just one thing, Chair.
Yep.
Very quick for everyone. Hey, listen, I've had quite a lot of concerns about the new Thompson Park playground renewal. I just thought I'd raise it with other board members very quickly. So I've had Eastern Community Sport and Recreation and Youth Life Trust, and Eastern Sport obviously has 2,500 members and 9 clubs concerned. So I just want to let everyone know that there will be some more concerns raised in this area, but that's all from me.
So, okay.
That's support.
Yeah, that's support. That people are very attached to it, and it's unfortunate that we can't. That the resources aren't available to replace it exactly as it was. And I can understand that. All right. Well, in that case, if you'd like to join me without kind of care, meeting. Kia tau, te rangi mārie, o te rangi e tu iho nei, o papatuanuku I tataku nei, o te taiao e api nei, ki roga I a tātou, tihei, moriora.
Sorry, Cindy, because I